Made it back here to beautiful Bali. Man, I love coming back here. The energy and vibe is just so different in this island. But today I wanted to talk about how, here's my trading account. I made $22,000 in that day, and that's on top of this $18,000 I made in that day in this previous episode. So that is not normal. That is quite a rare occurrence. I don't make anywhere near that much every day. And why I'm telling this to you is it's a further sign and confirmation that the recession, an inbound recession, is coming fast forward to us. And in fact, it's not just going to be any run-of-the-mill recession, but perhaps stagflation or even a greater depression, as I talked about in this video over here. So I'd like to get this out to as many people as possible who are willing to listen to this, because while it is late in the cycle, it's not too late in the game. And there are some changes that you can make in your life, wherever you are in your life, to kind of prepare for what's about to come. And I wanted to just share the thought process that I had a couple of years ago when I started my journey of preparation for what is about to come between now and the end of next year. And so I follow, this bakes into FOFTI, because FOFTI has 10 principles, which I'll share in a later video, and how I use them to actually get me through the process. And the process is really a simple 3-step process. And, the first step is literally to leverage and accumulate. And the second step is to reflect and aim and take aim. And the third step is to let go and just execute. And it's very similar to the way an archer shoots an arrow. When you shoot an arrow, you have to pull back on the string, and that's that first step of accumulating and leveraging. And so much like an archer, you need to execute a plan on how to prepare for what's about to come. Now, in the first step, which is accumulating and leveraging, the main message here is you got to use corporates and companies just as much as they're using you. Make no mistake, you are being used by them for their advantage. They're not your family. They're not out there to make you feel good and look after your overall well-being no matter what they say. They're there to make money and the bottom line when it comes to dollars and math. And you need to do the same to them. And what does that mean? Well, bust your chops, earn as much money as you can, save it, accumulate, build a stash. While you're doing that, you need to use other parts of the company to your advantage. What does that mean? That means if you work for a company with any kind of a brand name, use that brand name to your advantage. Examples could be using that brand name to open doors, to set up meetings, to go to conferences and network with people, to increase your brand as a person, as a professional. The goal there in this example is to extend your network, get to know as many people as possible. It's as important or even more important than just acquiring capital and money and a stash to save. And let me tell you why. If you create a network of people and they know you as a certain positive person in the professional world, in the area that you're doing work in, they will be very powerful later on. Because what they'll do is they'll be the ones to be able to find you capital, to help you out, to invest, either through them themselves or people that they know. Don't underestimate the power of building a network. And working at the company, look, back in the Middle Ages, there was something called serfdom, where you were basically, doing farming work or whatever, cleaning the whatever for the nobles and royalty. And that was the way things were, right? And once you were a serf for life, and you couldn't escape. There was a physical boundary that was set. And, if you tried to run away, if they caught you, they'd kill you, right? If they're nice, they'd let you back in. But that was it. It was a physical boundary that was set. And what happened was we figured out a way to convert that physical boundary into a mental boundary, where now you're essentially a serf, basically a corporate serf. And you could leave your job and do this and do that, and you're not bound in that way that you used to be bound in the past. But that's because they figured out a way to set the limits in your brain. And so you're mentally bound, right? And this is the message, it's a surreptitious way of achieving the same thing. And instead of royalty controlling everything and you doing the work as a laborer, we've got big conglomerate corporations that have a lot of stash that a few people own or families own, similar to royalty, and you're kind of stuck with the establishment because they've mentally cornered you in, right? And just like Bob Marley said, not but ourselves can emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. And so one needs to do the same, right? And the way to do that is from the get-go is to understand that working is a means to an end. It's not an end. The goal is not to work. The goal is to work so that you can use that company to your advantage to what you're actually trying to achieve. And that means saving money, using the company's resources as much as possible. Like, I'm not saying go and steal and do anything bad like that or illegal, but just to leverage what the company has as an asset to your own advantage. So that gets us to step 2, which is to basically just sit still and aim. And you know, a lot of people confuse this stage with getting lost at work, at getting stuck at work, quote unquote, and not knowing what to do, and being disillusioned. And perhaps that's why you're even watching this video. You might be in that stage, but it's actually not that, right? That's not the point. You're at, you know, just like an archer who sits still after drawing the bow, you need to sit still too, because what you're doing then is you're reflecting and aiming. And this is where some of the Fafty principles come into play. But you know, you're finding yourself, the self within you, understanding what fulfillment in life actually is. Again, it's not the company, right? I mean, it could be, but before just accepting that as a default, question it. Never accept defaults without questioning it first. And so it could be that you know, the end is the company. I'm not writing it off, but more often than not, it's not. They're just a means to an end. And so what is the end? And that, you know, I don't want to call it purpose. That's just too cliche. It's actually understanding who you are internally, who the self is, and what you're trying to achieve in terms of fulfillment, so that when you peace out at the end of your life, you feel fulfilled, whether or not you successfully achieved whatever you're striving for or not. And that's a deeper thing to understand, but it requires time for introspection, for some peace and aiming. And this is a time where you question yourself, and even if you think you know what it is that you want to do, that's where you still challenge it. You know, you question it, you poke holes into it, you ask people around it, you doubt it, and you see if it stands up to that test. And you vigorously and lavishly spend time during this stage 2 process. Don't rush it, and don't mistake it for getting stuck. Meanwhile, you're still accumulating, doing the work and doing all that, sure, yes. But internally, this is that stage. That's how you know you're getting ready, is when you hit this stage, you're at that, you know, moment of reflection, not to be confused with getting stuck and disillusioned. You'll be stuck and disillusioned if you don't understand stage 1 and 2 and that work is a means to an end, right? Then you're lost, because, yeah, usually work isn't the end. So during this time, you spend lavish amount of effort to do this, and then you'll get to stage 3, which is when you just execute, right? And so this could take years. Stage 2 could take years. This is not like a 1 week, 1 month thing. It took me 2 years to really think through and plan through and aim. But once you get there, you let go of the bow and the arrow shoots out, and that's the execution mode. That's the mode I'm in right now myself. And you know, it's too bad that I wasn't able to start YouTube when I was doing stage 1 and 2. So I'm gonna have to like retrospectively talk about how I got here today, because what I'm doing now is I'm trying to document the stage 3 where I let go and I'm executing now and applying Fafty principles to show everybody that it works, and that what I'm doing as I'm applying and practicing what I preach actually amounts to something, and how that has helped me, so that you can see yourself that me doing what I'm preaching actually may also help you. And so I'm going to have to do retrospective, like, you know, in the past how I practiced Fafty and got up to where I am to stage 3 now, but it's all about executing now, you know. And in the other video I talked about where, you know, about manifesting reality, which isn't about la la land manifesting, but actual concrete ways to manifest it. It's all about that, right? It's having the vision, having courage to execute, and then having the perseverance to not give up, right, when things get tough. And that is all about this stage 3 when you're in the execution mode. What I'm doing now after I quit my job, having some challenges, which, you know, I record on YouTube to show that it's not all smooth sailing, right? There are some challenges that I have to get through, and how I have to persevere. And these are all the documentation that I'd like to capture and share with you all, to show you that, You know, it is not a smooth road, but you need to persevere and keep going as you launch the bow and get there. And that will then get you to your destination of whatever you decided and understood through reflection you wanted to do. For me, it is to help other people. This is it, right? This is what I know I want to do until I pass out, or peace out rather, which is to help people as much as I can who are in similar situations, to share what I've used to get me out of them and actually to strive and succeed in life, and to put it in a way that other people can understand, can see, can reflect with, and can do themselves, right? To get them to where they want to go. And so at a broad level, that is the 3 stages. And each one of those stages, I'll talk a little bit more in detail. Some of it happened in the past already, about how I got through using actually what I did given my work, given my life conditions, where I was living, so on and so forth, so that you can see like the actual real world example on my situation, how I did it, and maybe learn how to then apply that to your situation in your life, given where you are and everything around you. And that's what I plan to do in the future episodes. But yeah, it's just start thinking about those 3 things, right? Because the time is coming. And I don't want to repeat what I talked about in my earlier episode about the recession and why I think that it's coming closer and closer. And the way I've invested and the way I make returns is to signal to me that it is coming closer and closer, because volatility is one of the ways that is a tripwire for me to say like it's now nearer than later. And that's why, because there's an increase in volatility, that I'm making a lot of stock market returns. And that to me is that signal that I'm also conveying to you, and that you should also understand that yes, the signal is here, that the time is running out, but there's still some time to prepare, and that I really recommend that you take a look around you and start doing the preparations, because you don't want to get stuck flat-footed when it hits, right? When, the worst case that could happen is you lose your job, what you thought was a stable job, and it's gone. And then you're forced into this reactive mode on soul searching and what's my purpose in life and what am I going to do and all. And you don't want to be doing that with all the stress. You want to be doing that in times like when you're like this, like things are good, and do that, right? Because that'll lead to a high fidelity outcome and your ability to actually really think through the most critical and important things in life. And so that you can orient yourself around that and not do it in a reactive mode when you're forced under pressure to figure that out, because you're going to make a low fidelity, low quality decision, because you're going to be stressed out and just do very short-term thinking just to get by. And that's not the way to plan out some of the most important things in your life. So having said that, I look forward to seeing you in the next episodes where I start breaking down exactly what I did and how I planned my escape route basically from corporate serfdom, and how that might also be a trigger for you to think through and how you might apply that to your own situation. So thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.